Good morning and welcome back to Mosiac. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss and honored to be your host. We're in the middle of a wonderful conversation that we're continuing about the ways in which we get to know one another and the ways in which we care for one another and how that influences the ways in which we look for leaders into the next generation. I'd like to introduce you to Sarah Persitz and also to Alex Rayter, who are board members of the Jewish Community Federation here in San Francisco, officially the Federation of San Francisco, Marin and Sonoma counties and the Peninsula. Welcome, Alex and Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
If we just use our time with the Gavanim folks as a little bit of a segue, can you talk a little bit about the ways in which you see Gavanim as an example in which our Jewish community has commitment to leadership development, really in our own community, but also in the state of Israel?
Sure. So I think Gavanim is representative of our Federation's overall mission and strategy for the way that we connect to Israel, the way that we invest in Israel, with the overarching goal being to inspire and help create a shared society. And as you heard in the previous conversations, Gavanim really is at the heart of that effort of bringing people together from across Israeli society, from different communities, from different religious backgrounds, from different heritages even, and bringing them together for a shared experience to understand themselves as Jews and as Israelis and as part of this larger mosaic that makes up Israeli society.
You know, the San Francisco Bay Area is so diverse in general, but certainly within the Jewish community, we are Jews of color, we are LGBT, we are Jews from various backgrounds, immigration backgrounds, many Russian Jews, many other folks, and certainly even in an intra-American society way, there are lots of people in the Bay Area who come from other states in the country. And so I'm just wondering, in that broader context, how does the Federation think about leadership development among ourselves here in our community? Is that, can I turn to you, Alex, to kind of jump into that?
Yes, absolutely, Rabbi, thank you. I think Federation as an agency that is a convener of people and services in our community understands the importance of bringing everybody into a big community tent, not having silos. A big word today in our community is engagement. Leadership is another big word. And I think engagement is something that wholly depends on leadership and leaders. So who engages the folks in the community to get involved? Who marshals the resources to create not only the Federation, but the other agencies it supports that have been around for so long and all of the institutions and services that we all enjoy? So I think the Federation takes that broader perspective and it really relies on, for example, with us, the next generation of leaders to come in to the fold and carry on the work that has been done before us, and also to make sure that we provide for the future given the existential realities on the ground here and on the ground in Israel, for example. So both societies have challenges and we need leaders to address them. And I think the Federation is doing a great job of addressing that.
And Sarah, can you talk about what you think leadership challenges are going to be into the next generation? We often talk about leadership development about the lessons learned and the way a previous generation took leadership on with the issues that confronted itself in its time. But we all know that leadership isn't stagnant, and we always have to depend on what tomorrow brings. And so I'm wondering, from your perspective, what are some of the leadership challenges that are on the horizon that we're going to face and need to understand more seriously and meet need for?
It's a great question, and one that I think we ask ourselves on a regular basis within the organized Jewish community, which is why there's such an emphasis on next-gen engagement. And I think at the root of it is less of a challenge and more of an opportunity. And I think it actually speaks to what Alex was saying, and this idea of being open and creating an open community. And our biggest opportunity, and where I think the Federation is investing a lot of its work in this area of leadership leadership development is in building true, authentic communities, and not just creating spaces where people show up from perhaps a sense of duty or obligation. It used to be that if you were Jewish, then you were involved in the organized Jewish community. But given where we are in America today and the rate of assimilation and the fact that we are free citizens of this country and we can participate however we choose, it's not a given that we opt into the organized Jewish community. And what our federation has realized is the importance of creating an open, authentic space for people like myself or my generation to come in and to express ourselves, to express our values in a way that is personally meaningful to us, and to be able to share that then with others as a way of connecting to something larger than ourselves, which I think is really at the core of the idea of community and leadership.
Sarah, Alex, we're going to take a quick break and come back to Mosaic in just a moment. Good morning and welcome back to Mosaic. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss and honored to be your host. We're in the middle of a wonderful conversation about leadership development here in the Jewish community. I'd like to welcome back Sarah Persitz and also Alex Rayter, board members of the Jewish Community Federation of San Francisco, Marin and Sonoma counties and the Peninsula. Welcome back, Sarah and Alex. We were talking about leadership development and the ways in which people feel engaged and entering into authentic spaces and relationship, and also ways in which then people feel cared for and known. And I'm wondering if you can talk in a little bit of a personal way about the effect that your involvement with the Jewish Community Federation has had on you in terms of feeling that you are part of something important, as you were saying, Sarah, something that's beyond yourself. So why don't we start with you, Sarah?
Sure. Being a part of the Jewish Community Federation has been a multifaceted experience, and I think that's part of the beauty of the organization, because anyone may find a certain entry point where you start to get involved, and for me it was actually through women's philanthropy and the young adult division. But by my involvement in those two groups, not only did I get to know different people from the community, also in an intergenerational way, which I think is tremendously valuable in terms of learning about the kinds of leadership and engagement models that came before us. But through my involvement in each of those groups, I was able to meet other members, representatives of our community, people who serve in wonderful leadership positions, who have taken the time to mentor me to share their stories and their experiences, but also to hear about my story and who I am and what inspires me to be at the table. And I think that through those conversations, those shared engagement opportunities, those shared experiences, that not only do we learn about the whole of our community, but for me, I also continue to learn more about myself and who I am and how I identify as a Jewish American.
Wonderful. And Alex, we have just a little bit of time, but it's a big question, but what about you?
Well, my own trajectory was such that coming from the former Soviet Union, immigrating here in '87 with my family, we came from a place where we were limited in our ability to explore and express our Judaism. When I came here, I was fortunate that I had a bar mitzvah and attended Hebrew school, but later became disconnected from the community because I just didn't find an entry point, as Sarah mentioned. And I was fortunate to go on a trip to Israel, sponsored by Federation. The great thing that they did, speaking on leadership, is that they said, if you go on this trip, you have to come back and get involved. And there's a whole tapestry of things you can do, but you have to get involved. And so I took them up on that offer and was sort of ushered and courted and taken along to various opportunities to get involved. I met a lot of fascinating people, and I now am able to participate in such a rich community with all of the resources and services and all the wonderful folks I met, where I truly have a sense of the way I want to live my life as a Jew, with the kind of community I want to pass on to my children. And yeah, and I think...
So wonderful. Yeah. Believe it or not, we need to sort of put a comma in the conversation. We've come to the end of our time together. Alex and Sarah, thank you so much together. And we want to ask you, please take the risk and a leap of faith to get to know somebody and get to know what it is to care and get to know your community. Thank you so much for being with us here on Mosaic.